2314. Quantum temporal manifold fusion had just been invented, and a new fusion reactor was built in the city of Greenfield in New Canada. The owner of this new fusion reactor, known as I go by lots of names, has hired 100 random strangers from his Discord server to manage the new nuclear reactor. And these aforementioned 100 random strangers have to do 3 tasks to make sure the reactor doesn't explode. Mine redstone from this very dangerous cave and feed it into the coolant pipe. Mine quartz from the nether and use it as reactor fuel. And finally, repairing the rapidly decaying radiation shield with any blocks you have. If any of these tasks are failed, the reactor explodes and everyone dies, unless you go into the emergency bunker. It is also worth mentioning that there are no rules. Players can either help save the reactor, or sabotage everything and kill everyone. So what happens when 100 players are left on their own in a nuclear reactor power plant? We shall find out now. Almost immediately, things went wrong. Apparently, someone named Spiky had broken inside the radiation shield and went right into the reactor itself. Usually, this will kill you in real life because the insides of a fusion reactor can be hotter than the sun's core, therefore killing you. But since we could not simulate 100 million Celsius temperature in Minecraft, Spiky could survive long enough in the reactor to do this. Apparently, putting a human inside a fusion reactor leads to a nuclear meltdown, and this triggered an evacuation for the entire server. The only safe zone in the server was this bedrock basement. Everywhere else, the power plant was going up in flames and also explosions. As expected, everyone started panicking and running towards the bunker. But there was another problem. The server that was hosting the event was brought to its knees due to all of the overly dramatic explosions, and everything slowed down to a halt. Due to all this, not only did everyone die from radiation poisoning, but everyone was kicked out of the server, and then the server had a nuclear meltdown of its own before eventually shutting down. Speaking of nuclear meltdown, there are 10 quadrillion vigintillion atomic nucleus in the universe, but only 280,000 subs in the universe. So the next sub-goal is to surpass 10 quadrillion vigintillion atomic nucleus. Please subscribe. Anyways, back to the original topic. In conclusion, my viewers do not know how to run a nuclear reactor. They basically did a speed run of a nuclear meltdown. But I was forgiving enough to give a second chance for the players even after this disastrous catastrophe. Except this time, I will make it easier. Nuclear reactors no longer explode when someone falls into them. So after restoring the server back up, getting everyone back inside the game, and beginning the game, it was time for round 2 of 100 random strangers managing a reactor. This time, the game was a lot more organized. People split into different teams dedicated towards maintaining one part of the reactor. And especially a big group went into the coolant mines, but it seemed that they weren't interested in getting coolant. Because this cave came with a giant netherite sphere that I placed to see how many people would fall for it. And as expected, players began exploiting the netherite sphere for their personal gain instead of doing their job of getting coolant. Those who stayed on task and mined redstone outside the sphere then got attacked by numerous hostile mobs. Redstone mining fatality rates rose to about 50%. But the exploding creepers and shooting skeletons were the least of their problems. The players who obtained netherite equipment from the sphere became corrupted by all the new power they possessed, and began targeting the humble redstone miners for no reason. Nobody could mine peacefully. Of the players that entered the mines, 90% were executed in unpleasant ways. For the 10% who escaped the traumatic cave experience with the precious redstone in their inventory, it was not over yet. As it turns out, a large part of the nuclear reactor employees were only interested in murdering random people who were doing their jobs. Serial killers were everywhere. People with redstone got randomly ambushed on the way to the coolant drop-off zone. For the lucky 1% who survived the mines and psychopathic nuclear reactor workers, they dropped their coolant into the reactor, saving it from blowing up. But the fuel was another issue. In the dangerous redstone mines, people began to use this lava lake to create a portal to the nether, where the quartz, aka reactor fuel, is located. A small team of some brave souls entered the nether, only to find themselves in one of the most dangerous biomes. The Basalt Delta. With giant steep cliffs, and lava pools everywhere. Not only that, but one uninvited guest joins the mining squad, and things immediately go wrong. This player, known as Guild H, is the main antagonist of the nuclear reactor social experiment. Of all the murderers on the nuclear power plant, a group who calls themselves Guild H did the most terrorizing, mainly because they were doing widespread assassinations, and used overpowered hacked clients, which were allowed on this server. Yes, people were hacking on a nuclear reactor simulation. And this led to the nether quartz mining mission failing spectacularly. The nether portal was trapped by Guild H in a world record time of 3 seconds, and more damage was about to be done, if it weren't for Guild H dying in his own lava. This left 3 surviving nether quartz miners. With all connections to the outside world gone, it was all up to the survivors. But the plan of Guild H was foiled, after some reactor workers arrived in the nether and destroyed all the lava. Then the foiling of the plan of Guild H was unfoiled when another griefer arrived to trap everyone in the nether for all eternity. And anyone who went into the nether, never came back to the overworld, due to lava traps, magma cubes, burning, and killing. With no survivors carrying quartz, this led to a quartz shortage, with the reactor running out in about 3 minutes. Meanwhile, the radiation shield was dying. People could not keep up with repairing such an unreasonably huge structure. Until someone had an idea. He was going to repair the shield by using a lava cast. Lava and water flowed all over the place, and cobblestone clogged up the reactor area. And as time went on, the nuclear reactor facility looked more like 2B2T. Lava casts were all over the place and blocked the way of the reactor workers. One cast was dangerously close to the spawn area, and it grew until it eventually surrounded spawn with cobblestone and water, basically turning it into a swimming pool. It was all part of a plan to trap the respawning players. As the players looked at the new surroundings, hackers began closing in on them. The spawn region turned into the Hypixel Pit game mode, with hackers fighting players fighting hackers. Due to this, lots of reactor workers were now distracted and killed from doing their job of running the reactor. It was the final plan of Guild H to cripple the nuclear reactor workforce, and cause more chaos. One of the deadliest Guild H members, known as Single, took advantage of this to show off his custom-named sword. There were several other named swords such as, Guild H, the Realm on Top, G Join Guild H, a Ringo Client, and Rajid Best Girl. A legendary sword that was created by Sin, before he was slain by Guild H, leading the sword to be inherited by FYKT. But besides the Rajid Best Girl sword lore, as things in the reactor facility went downhill even more, and all hope was lost, the surviving workers saw no point in doing things and began to slack off. The players who were in charge of cooling the reactor basically quit. They decided to mine out the coolant area and use the materials to build their own base on top of the coolant pipe, complete with a beacon and some inappropriate imagery. Meanwhile, at the radiation shield, the lava casts are not enough to shield the radiation from the inside, and at half durability, everyone in the server got radiation poisoning. Some players escape the spawn area in a desperate attempt to fix the shield, but they are followed by griefers. The players just barely get the shield back above half durability after placing a few more lava casts, but their efforts are countered by infamous griefer 4th Idiot, who sets off TNT at one corner of the shield, resulting in a giant hole. This TNT originates from several storage units around the map, some of which were discovered and blown up. More TNT from the last surviving storage units is used to blast a giant hole in the center of the shield, and the efforts of the shield repairers are destroyed. The radiation poisoning spreads everywhere again. While all of this is going on, the reactor was on the brink of exploding. Fuel was running very low. A small team of workers, still dedicated to doing their job correctly, decide to go on a last-ditch mission to the nether to get fuel since the hackers were distracted by the bloodbath at spawn. And despite all the poisoning and other difficulties, they managed to get about a stack of wards, before making the journey back to the ruined base, which was much easier without all of the hackers. With 30 seconds left to spare, the team increases the reactor lifespan by about a minute. But even with the heroic efforts of Syndicate, it was inevitable that the reactor would eventually melt down. The whole game has realized this by now, and some people just stand still as they accept their fate. And since fate is an event that will happen in the future, it happened. For the second time, the reactor began melting down. The evacuation warning appears for the entire server, and everyone stops fighting for once. The players all crowd into the emergency bunker area, but there was a plot twist. The emergency bunker had been briefed before the meltdown even happened. As it turned out, while all the action was taking place around the facility, this one player went into the emergency bunker and took his time to fill the area with lava, basically dooming everyone. Panicking players jumped straight into the trap without looking. As the server continued to explode and fall apart, as all the nuclear reactor employees died, and as the meltdown came seconds away, Koskin Cobb had the final laugh, and he said the final words of the game.
Do you like Fortnite rap battle?